Welcome back to another episode of the Zealous Podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder. This week, I've invited Danielle LaFata on. She is a dietitian and nutritionist. In fact, she has been working in the field of sports nutrition for quite a while. We'll call it performance nutrition. She heads up performance nutrition for the Phoenix Suns. Before that, she was with the U.S. Men's World Cup soccer team. And for that matter, she was with the World Series champion San Francisco Giants. She has been working with athletes for quite a long time. We're going to find out the secrets of her success and how she gets her athletes to be as successful as they can be from a nutritional standpoint. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it as much as I did. Hang on tight. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to dive into our conversation. You have quite a resume as I look. I mean, you've spent time in the San Francisco Giants organization as a dietitian, nutritionist there, but during their World Series runs, and you've been with the U.S. men's national team for a few seasons, heading into the World Cup, and now you're residing with the Phoenix Suns. And I've watched a few of those YouTube little segments, those little snippets of 2 or 3 minute videos with the executive chef. Those are really cool to get some insight. So yeah, I can't wait to dive in. First, I would love to know how you got to be where you are and where you went to school and the path that you took to get you to land in the lovely land of the never-ending sun in Phoenix.
Sure. Yeah. So I graduated with a business degree actually from Central Michigan University. And during that time, I was on the cheer team. So we competed, went down to NCAs in Daytona, and that was a lot of fun. Gymnastics improved, fitness level improved. It was great. And when I was graduating, well, even before that, I didn't have a lot of upper body strength. I was always a dancer, and I competitive dance, jazz, ballet, solos, groups, and I was a track runner and cross country runner in high school. And so our coach at Central was very big on having us do this little mini fitness. These fitness, what am I trying to say? Like dips and back handsprings and pull-ups and all this stuff. And we had to run a mile under a minute in order to be out on the basketball court or the football court. And so there were a few of the fitness tests that I didn't pass because I didn't have the upper body strength. So I hired a trainer in that summer going into my junior year. And he kept saying, why don't you do a fitness competition when you graduate from college? And I thought, I don't know. So 3 years go by and I'm graduating and I'm thinking, I've been active all my life since I was 3. And now I'm just going to go into the gym and lift weights. Like I like a lot of group activity, fitness. So I sat down with a registered dietitian who helped her brother with his bodybuilding competitions and in the NCP. And so then I had my first Fitness America competition in, this is going to date me, August of 2021. And so I worked with her and my trainer, and it was great. I dropped healthy, body weight and body fat, and my energy improved, and I got off all my coffee, and I was like, what is this world? There is something to nutrition, because I always had a healthy habit. I just always just ate and just drank too much. And I decided I want to go back to school for nutrition or exercise science. So I don't know what happened. I ended up going for my master's in nutrition and food science and my registered dietetics certification at the same time. And
Wow.
During that time, I had gotten a personal training certification, so I could also personal train. And as I was at this gym, someone handed me Mark Verstegen's Core Performance book. So I read through that and I started learning all about athletes' performance and what Amanda Carlson was doing over there. And I thought, oh, this would be so great. This would be a great place to work. This just kind of fits my alley. Anything that's, health and fitness and active individuals. And during the 07-08 crash, my husband at the time and I thought we want to move somewhere, go somewhere warm, move out of Michigan. So I thought, let's go to Arizona. I was really pushing for Arizona because my grandparents had moved out there prior. And I love the heat. I loved everything about Arizona. And then Athletes Performance was out there. So we moved out there and I started working for them. And that was for 8 years. And during that time of working with them, I was on the mentorship or education team. I worked with military. I helped out with some of the corporate wellness programs. I worked with the San Francisco Giants for 6 seasons and was with them in their 2014 and 16 World Series, 2012 and 2014 World Series runs. I worked with the U.S. men's national soccer team for 3 years and went with them to the World Cup in 2014. Just oversaw, just did a lot and was able to have a lot of different opportunities and do different things within Exos or athletes' performance. And then this opportunity came up because then I went into private practice for a little while, and I'm doing some education in integrative and functional nutrition and medicine. And about 3 years ago now, this position came up to work with both the Suns as well as the Mercury, the women's team.
Ah, I didn't realize you were with the Mercury as well.
Yes, and just part-time, because it is real difficult to go from one full season and run right into another. So yes, yeah, it's wonderful. I love working with them, their staff as well as the players. It's fantastic.
Wow. And for the listening audience, if you're not familiar with API, Athletes Performance Institute, which is now Exos, or even when API was in existence, they had their kind of corporate realm, which was called Core Performance. Anyway, the founder of that, Mark Verstegen, he's been on the show. You can go into the archives, and while you're there, look up Nick Winkelman, because Nick was down at API at the same time, and now he's over in Ireland, so you can check out those episodes. But I'm curious, with it sounds like you do program design, but program design from a nutritional or dietetic standpoint. I mean, you are designing programs for every athlete. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. That's a good way to say it. Cause it's the individual meal plans, and then it's looking at it on a group level and how to feed everyone and make sure that you are providing the right options as well as the amounts of what they need. And then looking at then the supplementation programming. So the education that goes along with that, picking the right products. So it's smart supplementation, that we're doing things, in a cohesive manner with our nutrition. How are we hydrating? What are we using to hydrate? How much water? What electrolytes? How much in terms of electrolytes? And then I manage the body weights and body composition. And I also look at labs also to see what we can do to help continue to further say, hey, from a nutrition standpoint, things are looking a little off. This is why we need to add in more carbohydrate or more protein or more specific nutrients like choline from eggs and so on and so forth.
So are you doing blood tests with the athletes?
So yes. Yeah. So I have
Yeah.
different companies that I use, because there are a lot of guys that we're using for a while that I think went under during during the pandemic, was a Quest Blueprint for Athletes. So I try to recreate that, or whatever the guys want to do. I do food sensitivity testing, micronutrient testing, or any of their general labs that are run by the docs, whatever's coming through, and just kind of looking at the nutrition, the nutrients, or the labs, the ones that would be more reflective of nutrient status, right? Hemoglobin, hematocrit, total protein.
I got you. And so it's interesting too, because now, of course, we're into the realm of plant-based, vegan choices, as well as traditional choices. And so you must have a kind of a smattering of athletes that have certain preferences. Is that true?
Yes, this year was really difficult. I tell everyone I have about 8 vegans or plant-based players and
Wow,
coaches on the team.
that's a lot,
Yeah.
actually. More than I thought.
Yes. And then you have a few players and coaches that we call it, vegan or plant-based light, where, they'll try to have for a couple days in a row, it'll be all just plant-based meals. And then maybe sometimes they'll throw in some fish, or so they'll try the vegan meals. So, and then
Okay,
I had some food allergies, and yes, it gets pretty hairy.
all the normal allergies, like are we talking gluten, nuts, dairy, that type of stuff?
Yes, shellfish, yeah.
Shellfish, yeah.
Peanuts.
And are they so sensitive that you can't share utensils and all that, really, you've got to really dive in deep, huh?
Mhm. So it was really good. This past year was my first year full time with the men's team, and I traveled with them, so also full time travel, and that was very telling because and I don't know if it's also, I think it's a combo of things, short staff because of what's been happening these past couple of years, and just lack of education or time to educate the staff on. So we have this allergy, but what does that mean? How do we separate the food? How do we prevent cross contamination, not just in the back of the house in the kitchen, but also on the line as we're serving the food? So it was a lot of work to really make sure that everything was set up and set out appropriately.
Oh, I bet it was. And you just mentioned traveling. So I know that you prepare foods for when they're traveling on the airplane. It's not like they just get the JetBlue little cardboard box of nuts and crackers with a biscotti and a cup of coffee. No, you have it all laid out. And so you've got to do that as well. Now, uh, tell me a little bit about that. What's that like with the travel menu?
Yes, that's a great question. So yeah, we have our menus here at home. And so I have as you mentioned, Brendan, our executive chef, and his team. Just love them. They're my heart. They're so great to work with. They're so collaborative, and they just create such good food, and they care so much. They're fantastic. So working with them, I'm putting out the menus here. So at practice, as well as pre and post game meals at home. But they're pretty much self-sufficient. So this past year I've really spent the majority of my time on trying to figure out systems and templates to help communicate what we want at the hotels, on the plane, and at the arena for food. So,
So the visiting arena, you have a say over that as well.
yes. So all of us dietitians, we have we'll do either pregame meal or snacks at the arena, and then definitely post-game meal. We'll either do buffet or a grab and go. Everything's packaged in to-go containers.
At the post game on a visiting arena, is that
Yes.
done in the arena itself?
So we'll get caterers, and they'll come
Okay.
in and they'll drop the food off. So I have to be there to receive the food, help set up. It's a 50-50 that the caterer will have everything all ready to go and can set up. And then sometimes I like it to be organized a certain way. So I want to be there to make sure the flow is proper. And if I do have shellfish on the menu, I want to make sure that it's in a separate area so it doesn't get cross-contaminated with any of the other food.
Ah, okay. So you haven't run into any sabotage in visiting cities with caterers because I mean, I'm thinking back in Boston, growing up with Larry Bird and McHale and Red Auerbach was the GM, and there was rumors that the air conditioning wouldn't work in during the playoffs in the visitors' locker room, and for
Yes.
some reason the heater just kept on pumping out. They were having some type of electrical problem. So you don't happen to run into anything like that, do you?
No, not yet. No one sabotaged our food.
Ah, okay, so I would love to talk about the difference between pre and post game nutrition and
Mhm.
really dive in deep for the sport coaches out there that are listening, that are the basketball players, that are the trainers, whomever. It's just like, okay, what is the significant difference between pre and post?
A great question. So I think with starting off with consistency. So for the most part, they don't want to have it varied. It's always a chicken and a fish, mostly a salmon, and having some type of pasta or a potato. I can switch out for rice. And then having some of the more popular vegetables like a broccoli or a Brussels sprout or both, and asparagus. So really it's the pregame meal is pretty much the same all the time because
Huh.
they have they want to be consistent. They want to have that exact same meal every time. They don't want any surprises.
And what's the macronutrient breakdown?
So I try to do, I think for the players, I do around maybe a 50-55% carbohydrate for these guys. And then like a 20-25 for protein and fat.
Okay.
It's pretty
And
standard.
how does that differ from the post game then in terms of recovery?
Yes, it's really, it's about the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I just vary it. So sometimes what I do there is like what I call 80-20. And we would always talk about this at Exos that 80% of the time we're going to eat clean, eat often, be real yes, clean about our food. And then 20% of the time, sure, we'll have burgers on there, we'll have pizza, right? Also to keep up morale. So we'll go to certain areas. And if it's in Chicago, we're definitely getting deep dish pizza, but I'll also have a lean chicken option and a lean carbohydrate option and, a good salad and some lean, vegetables with not a lot of cheese or fat on them in case somebody wants that. So they have the choice to do whether they want to stay 80% or 20%.
Gotcha. Ah, okay. And then obviously, it's you just mentioned regional cuisine like Chicago deep dish, and if you're going down to play the Pelicans in New Orleans, going to get some jambalaya or something like
Mhm.
that. But your team itself, like last week, speaking to Mar de Luzon with the Atlanta Hawks, he was mentioning how multicultural the NBA has become, and we've got players from Europe and all over the place descending into the NBA, and Phoenix is no different, really. So, how do you bring that into your cuisine or your menu selection? Are you incorporating some European dishes, things like that, for some of the players that are coming over?
Yeah, yes. And I try, or, for instance, we did one of our European players had never had jambalaya. And I was like, oh, well, so that's the other thing too, is I think we've always had it on the menu, but that it's organizing it in the hot box or on the line and making sure it's labeled appropriately, or you're standing there so you can talk to them. Because if they're like, what is this? And you could say, oh, well, it's this rice dish or it's this pasta dish and it has these flavors in it. Go ahead and try it, but definitely grab here's a little sample for you. Try it. And then, but definitely grab what you're familiar with.
And then what about portion control? Because I did see one of the videos and you had the hot boxes and you put them in the little plastic containers and it looked like something that you were really portioning out properly. But if you've got a buffet style, but
Mm.
is that something you have to contend with?
Yeah. And sometimes it's really for it's because I just want them to eat and it's getting them to eat enough. I don't have to worry about them overeating. This population, so it's more saying, okay, maybe another extra scoop of vegetable, another extra scoop of a carbohydrate. That's really what we're trying to do. And we have little education sessions where I'll say, so many fists, let's just say 4 fists post game of carbohydrate or 5 or 6. So I'll give them inanimate objects and try to reinforce that throughout the season to remind them, like so many fists pre, post, at breakfast, in order to make sure that they're getting in enough calories.
Okay. Yeah, I love how you give me answers and it leads into something else. You just mentioned breakfast.
Yes.
What's an NBA breakfast look like?
Yes. They love
A
their eggs.
WNBA. Is there
Yeah. Oh,
and okay, one more. Is there a difference between the WNBA and NBA diets?
yeah. That's a good question. It's about the same. It's same thing. Like I'm having a hard time getting everyone to eat enough.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I
that's
never have that problem.
I know. I know. It's so crazy. But breakfast, we do protein pancakes. Our chefs have done a great recipe. Well, they'll add a vegan really, I think it's all vegan. They'll add vegan protein powder to the batter. And
Hmm.
those have been really popular. And they do a really great job with overnight oats and varying the flavors. So they'll pair that with their omelets or their eggs in the morning. Those seem to be the most popular options.
Okay. And then that is how much time before practice well, games are usually in the afternoon or evening. So breakfast isn't going to be a big contender there.
Mhm.
But if they're doing practice, they're coming in and what's the time frame? Are we 30 to 45 minutes before, an hour before? What are we talking?
That's a really good question. It depends on the player. So some
Hmm.
players can eat and just go out and run, and some need to come in about an hour and a half, 2 hours prior, eat, let it digest, get what they need to get done so then they can get out onto the court. So it's really dependent upon the player.
Aha. Okay. And then come lunchtime, I imagine is there a snack time in between, a little small meal between breakfast and lunch?
Yeah, I would say our smoothies would be, smoothies are very popular.
Smoothies.
Breakfast smoothies, whether it's by itself or with their breakfast. So smoothies are really popular. So yeah, I would say they eat their breakfast, we have practice, and then we have the post-workout smoothies. So it's just a 2 to 1, a 3 to 1 ratio of carbs to protein.
Okay, and your favorite smoothie recipes right now are what?
Ooh, that's a good one. banana mango is a popular one for those that like the mango. And then our chef, he does a great job of mixing, creating a really great base. And so he'll do a bunch of different, we'll do apple juice, tart cherry juice, and ripple milk. It's a pea milk. So,
Huh.
and their protein, yeah. So it's a pea, milk made out of peas. So, and that base is really good. And he creates it to go. I just don't have, we'll use coconut water or coconut milk, and
Uh-huh.
he'll create the base to go with the fruit.
Got it. Yeah, I was speaking to another nutritionist in Major League Soccer. They have a PBJ smoothie where they take like a pea protein, but they take some type of nut, whether it's almond or cashew butter or something like that. Throw in the tart cherry, and it's like just a smoothie with a PBJ. So, do you ever share recipes with other teams? I know you've got your executive chef Brandon, but collectively between the two of you, do you coordinate with other NBA dietitians and chefs?
On an individual basis.
Okay.
I have some of the dietitians where we've become good friends. And so we'll try to collaborate, or if we're stuck on something or need an idea, there's a couple of them. We'll just pick up the phone and we'll chat with each other. And that's really helpful and really nice.
And then
Mhm.
how do you track an athlete's intake, caloric intake? Are you counting calories? Are you just going generally by the portions that they're taking, and then you use body weight and comp to determine if they're on the right trend?
Mm. The latter. Yeah. Right now, I don't have a real specific. It's hard to get them to track. And then, they're only with us for breakfast and lunch, and then they've got dinner and hopefully another snack, or they have, private chefs are a really big thing right now in the NBA. So some of our guys, and we might just have them for breakfast, and then their chef has lunch and dinner. So I'll have to coordinate time to chat with the chef on a monthly, bi-monthly basis. And then we will do, weights we'll try to get weekly, but sometimes the way the schedule works, it is not that easy. And then we'll do the DEXA. We use DEXA for our body composition, and we do that about every 6 to 8 weeks. So we kind of just use that, and eyes, just kind of seeing who's maybe leaning out a little bit too much, what's going on if someone gets injured. Now, if someone's injured, we're a little bit on them more, especially with a knee injury, or all that extra load that could happen if we're not careful with the amount of food that we're eating, right? Because all that extra activity we've backed off that output.
And then
So,
do you throw with that injured athlete, do you throw in collagen or magnesium supplements? I mean, what are we talking about
mhm,
helping to restore, repair, and return an athlete to play?
yeah. So collagen, and right now all of our guys are on collagen. I try to get them to take it before they hop on in the weight room, but sometimes that's not the case. So at least they always take it before, because sometimes they'll do weights prior to getting out on the court. So if that's the case, if they don't get it before they hit the weights, they'll take collagen before they get out on the court. So they're already taking collagen. I'll put them on leucine and HMB, and really make sure they hone in on tart cherry juice, just for those antioxidants, as something. And I'm working on, we have a kind of like a rehab or a recovery anti-inflammatory smoothie, which is just a bunch of berries and kind of a little bit balanced, little bit of fat in there, monos for help with inflammation. And then I might give them some extra fish oil for a while, especially if they're not fish eaters, cold water fatty fish eaters. Some of our athletes, we might do some of the SPMs, the pro-resolve mediators, which are a metabolite in a sense from a fish oil, to help with inflammation. And then, yes, making sure they're staying up on top of their collagen. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I'm sure there's something else in there that,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's mainly through smoothies because that's the best way you're going to mix all that together. Is that correct?
Yes, and we do have drinks, like if they are gonna, as they start, because even if they do have a lower body injury, they're still going to do some upper body work. So I have the pre-workout drinks. They're like 6 to 8 ounces, and I'll mix a collagen powder in there, some greens. That's where I'll put some leucine. Oh, creatine. I'm a big fan of creatine, so the guys will get creatine.
And what about vitamins like niacin, which is a vasodilator to allow for greater blood flow, perhaps, or anything like that? Do you delve that deep into that?
I'd like to, I'm also handcuffed because we need to have products that are NSF certified for sport or informed sport certified. So I do use Beat Elites. I love that product. I think half the team and almost the whole coaching staff on Beat Elite every game day. I would mix beet drinks for everyone. And then everybody gets a foundational pack. I like multivitamin. So they'll get a multivitamin, fish oil. I have vitamin D on hand. So whatever I have on hand that we could get them and that could match up to anything that they're reporting, any symptoms or signs that they're having versus me seeing how they're feeling, what I hear from the coach, and then what I see in their labs. And I do my best to gather all that information and then find products that are certified for sport that I could give them. And then again, if they're willing to take them.
Yeah, well, that was going to, you're amazing, Danielle, because you're feeding me one question after another. I was wondering about some of the products they have there. They're large corporate products that I get a sense that maybe because they're sponsors, shall we say, that they're going to try and get their products in there. And you may not feel 100% that these are the products that you want to have. And I don't want to put you on the hot seat or anything, but it must be like you're wearing handcuffs going, okay, I really don't want to give them this, but I can't give them this without getting it approved. So how long does it take something to get approved? Say you see something, you've tried it, you're like, oh, I got to bring this into the team, but it's not approved yet. What's the process for that?
That's a great question. So it's two parts to that. So there's the NSF and informed sport certification. That's going to be company specific. So companies like Thorne, or it's another big company out there. Now they'll take their products, they send it to NSF Sport or Informed Choice Sport or Informed Sport, and they'll pay money to get it certified and get that stamp on it. So as long as it has that stamp, I can use whatever I'd like. There aren't really any corporate sponsorships except for, I believe, the league, right? I think the league is Gatorade, and then each team can have their own individual partnerships or sponsorships. So I do use the Gatorade nutritional shakes. As I went and I looked at all the different ready to drink shakes, the little ones in the bottle,
Yeah.
all like Core Life, Gatorade, what are a few, Evolve, and then some of the vegan ones, they're very, very similar in ingredients. And so I do use the Gatorade nutritional shakes. They're like 350 calories and they have fat, carbs, and protein in them.
And
So
that's organic too, right? Their product is
the
also, or
Gatorade,
is
the
that what?
Evolve is. No, the
Oh,
Evolve's not I can't remember. I don't think Evolve is organic. And the Gatorade nutritional shake, I don't think Gatorade has organic ready to drink shakes. They've made their organic sports drink line.
that's it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I don't mind Gatorade. If we use it smartly and appropriately, that's fine. I do wish they'd cut back on the dyes, but that's where the organic, line has come out. However, then you can debate, well, it doesn't have multiple carbohydrates in it, because that's where, I mean, the original research with Gatorade back 40, 50 years ago, and Oscar Eukendrup in the UK, he's done a lot of research on this. I think he sat on their board for a little while, but there's a lot of research on, you need at least two different carbohydrates when you're drinking a carbohydrate solution or eating goos or chews, because they have different pathways in order to be absorbed. And so if you just consume one and you consume too much, that's when you'll get GI issues. So the regular Gatorade, it has glucose, which is fructose, and I'm sorry, they have sucrose, which is glucose and fructose, or high fructose corn syrup, which is fructose and glucose. And then they have another, I think, like maybe just maltodextrin, I'm forgetting at the moment. So that's two different types of carbohydrate, and they have two different pathways, and then it'll be easier on the gut and the digestion process. So, and as
Wow.
long as you're, and the guys need the calories, and if they're being dosed with that carbohydrate or sugar at the right time, it should not be negative on their systems. Now, do they need they're only playing, I mean, practices are an hour and a half. When the practices are an hour and a half, 2 hours, and the guys that are losing a lot of weight and they're just not eating enough, might not be a bad idea to have some, liquid calories with them. And then for game days, sure, some of the high minute players, around 30, 40 minutes, they could use it, but 16 ounces of Gatorade, And that's the thing, is we're making these really big bottles and it's just too much. So if we do it smart and we use it in the right way, it could be a really good tool.
What about age specificity? Like you've got young players, 18, 19, 20 years old. You got seasoned veterans that are in their mid to late 30s. Is there going to be a dietary difference when it comes to these players?
That's a good question. I don't know if I haven't been paying attention. My calories might be off a little bit, but I think when you adjust for age, it's minor. I think it's only like 50, maybe upwards of 200 calories. Don't quote me on that. I haven't necessarily paid attention, but they all are around somewhere between, depending on their size, their age, the minutes played. When I've calculated off the top of my head, I think the average is like 3,800 calories on average.
38 per day, 3,800 per day.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's sizable.
Yes.
But these are big guys. Oh,
Yeah.
so I was thinking more along the lines of anti-inflammatory, because playing all the way through into your mid 30s, there's going to be more wear and tear. There's going to be inflammation going on that may not be present for the 18 or 19-year-old pros.
I see.
So,
Mm.
so when it comes to that, what kind of things could you start to incorporate into those players that are starting to, I won't say feeling arthritic, but
Mm.
definitely there's inflammation in their gut, in their body, I mean.
Yeah, one thing I do, and I know this is controversial, but I've been doing it for 15 years and I've had anecdotally, I've had great success.
Go girl, go, tell me what it is.
We do food sensitivity testing, and I use a specific test, not the LCAT, which is a type of like immunoglobulin G or IgG. This other one is a mediator release test. So it looks at the end stages. So it's indirectly measuring your IgG, but it's also measuring your interleukins, your cytokines, those things that produce that inflammation that create the IBS or the joint pain. So I've been using that test for about 6 years. And so we've created so I have a whole system on how I can implement that. And that's one piece of the puzzle. And then we talk about what foods are they not eating that they could start to try to incorporate, like cold water, fatty fish, maybe some extra vegetables. The research and anecdotally, tart cherry juice, everyone really, if they can handle the flavor, everyone really likes that. So, kind of starting there, and from a food point, right? Removing some of the triggers and in what it may be. And the food sensitivity, it helps to eliminate a lot of the guessing work, because this one looks at 170 different foods. I mean, it's a very small portion. I guess there's like, I don't know, over 4,000 foods and chemicals in our food supply. So we're talking 170 out of 4,000, but it gets you somewhere, because a lot of people will eat a salad and they'll say, oh, it was the chicken. And I was like, well, what's in the salad? Well, all the different lettuces, the different vegetables, there was a nut on there were orange slices, and then you have the dressing. I'm like, how do you know it's the chicken? So doing that food sensitivity, we can start to kind of peel back some of those layers and really narrow down what actually could it be, and then look at things that they could add into their diet that are anti-inflammatory.
So you mentioned peeling back the layers, and I'm wondering about fads and crazes and trends, and being a personal trainer, certified as you are, you've probably, and a competitive athlete through your years and always active, you've seen trends within the strength conditioning and fitness realm, and I've been doing it probably as long as you've been alive, but we won't even get into that. But nonetheless, I've seen amazing trends, and then the fads that are just flash in the pans, come and go. The same holds true with nutrition. As I remember Covert Bailey with Fit or Fat, and Dr. Barry Sears with Eat Right for your for all. Then we had paleo and all those things. How do you navigate through all the crap to find the purity that all these things have a little bit to offer? How does that work for you, or are you just pulling your hair out?
I used to pull my hair out, and now what I look at it as, we're all on this journey to find what works for us and what we need to stay satisfied, because food food is comfort, it's tradition, there's culture, and then we're using it from a science base to help you with your performance. So, and everybody's going to go off after these different things. So lately I've been taking I don't really have much of opinion. If this is what you want to do, then I want to make sure it fits your world. It fits what we're seeing in your labs or in any of the data that we get, any of your stats. And then how are you feeling? And are you getting enough in order to support not just this one game, but the length of your career?
Gotcha.
So I kind of take
Okay.
an approach. I'm going to meet you in the middle. So if this is what you want to do, then let's do it. Let's do it smart. Let's do it right. And let's work through some of these nuances. And how can I help you when we're on the road?
Okay. Without naming names,
Mhm.
between the Giants and the men's soccer team and the Suns and the Mercury, has there been a player that has come up to you and has said, "This is how I want to eat," and in your head you're just going, "You got to be kidding me! Like, are you serious?"
Yeah, not like I said, not as recently because I've tried to remove that opinion that I have no opinion. I am, what is it? Switzerland. I am neutral because I'm here to help. I'm here to help you. And I'm just here to make sure that whatever you decide, you're going to get all the nutrients that you need. I'm going to help
Oh,
make
you
sure.
are no fun whatsoever being Switzerland. Come on, step out of the
But
country for
yes,
a second.
but
Okay,
yeah,
what?
back in the day, all the things, and I was like, oh God, I can't remember details right now, but yes. And I know tonight I'm going to be sleeping and I'm going to be like, oh, I remember that story. But yes, with soccer and with there were some, what they wanted to do and what they wanted to try. And I was like, I don't think that's the greatest idea for you. Like, this is not going to go. And it lasted maybe a couple months. It's very rare that anything lasts for very long. However, there are some athletes that I've worked with that have chosen a specific path and they've stuck with it and it works for them. So you can't deny that.
Good.
Mhm.
Okay. Then, so we were talking about cultural differences or multicultural team makeup. There must be times where somebody comes in and maybe they do it to Brandon, the executive chef, but I have a feeling they do it to you. And they come in and say, "This is my grandma's recipe. And I
Mhm.
would love it if we could have this." And
Mhm.
you kind of look down the recipes and you're like, "Yeah, yeah, we could do this." And then you start tweaking it a little bit. Okay, instead of this ingredient, we're going to put in, instead of lard, we're going to do some type of oil or something like that. Does that happen?
Yes, and that really happened a lot more in when I was with baseball, right? We would get a lot of the DR, Dominican Republic,
Yeah.
the DR players, and they would and then some of our Venezuelan players, and there were the arepas, and then there was this rice dish. They had to get the rice for the DR really crispy. I'm forgetting the name of it right now, and it's so good. And I did play around with the ingredients for a little bit, but then that's where I was like, well, why do I have to do that? That's like that's your comfort. That's what you grow up with. And that's going to be 20%. And you can have that twice. Like if we can meet in the middle, how many days a week are you having it? Okay. Can we turn that into, if you're having it 4 days a week, can we try to start having it 3 days a week? So just
I
like,
love
why
that.
I'm going to eat ice cream. Why am I going to eat fat-free, sugar-free ice cream? Why am I not just going to have a real good ice cream?
That's
So
really good because you're considering the mental, emotional, they even potentially the spiritual aspect of the athlete, and not just this linear thought that this is an automaton that I have to get to the optimal level of performance to win a title or anything. You're taking in the entire athlete, which is very,
mhm,
very um, heartfelt, I'll say. That's great. So, with this 80-20 rule, does that
mhm.
apply to you too?
Yes. Yeah, I
Oh,
like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what's your
I try
20? Come on, you
pasta.
got 20% of
Oh, I have a
something
lot
there.
of I like pizza, fries. French fries
Yeah.
are oh my gosh. French fries. I would say pasta, but overindulging in pasta, like getting a good plate of gnocchi and actually eating the whole thing versus trying to just have a little bit and portion it out so I can eat on a regular basis. But yeah, so if I could eat pasta for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that would be that
Wow.
would be
Wow,
my
Midwest girl loving pasta. That's interesting. So,
Because that's
which
that's
that's
my
good.
culture. Yeah, my grandma's from Italy, so Sunday was
Ah,
Sunday dinners, and she would always make homemade noodles or homemade gnocchi, and yeah, so
hmm.
rid of that.
Right on.
I
Okay,
did when
then
I was doing the fitness competitions. I thought I was going to send her into an early grave because I was so structured in how I was eating. And she was like, but then after a while, very different because right, most Italian moms and grandmas are like, why aren't you eating? And you need to eat this. And she would make me my little plate and she knew like my little portion that I needed and she would put it in front of it. It took a while to get there because I did it for 3 years. So I'd say the first year was a fight. And then she finally started to get it. And I, was able to get a little bit more balance on my Sundays. But then I also decided to turn those then I think my last year, I just started to turn those into my 20% days, which I didn't really do 80-20. I was just like, here's my cheat day. So it's going to be, Sundays at grandma's.
that sounds great. Now that brings into the idea of processed foods to some degree. Now, Grandma probably made the noodles fresh and all that, and she slaved in the kitchen for you to only give her a small plate. But we'll get beyond that. But what about processed foods? How I know that would fall into the 20%, but there's got to be some within the buffet style of preparation. How do you navigate through processed foods?
Sure. I think trying to keep things clean, right? So we don't have too much. I mean, sure, we've got, if we do pasta, we do white rice, all that's processed, but we'll do
Not
potatoes.
brown rice, not multi-grain, not wild or
We'll
anything?
do brown, but if I put it on the menu, I have to do like a half a pan because then no one will eat it. Because there's still some that they won't eat brown rice. They have to have white rice, and I'd rather them have food and calories than not eat at all.
Wow.
Hmm.
What's up with
So
that?
that's just food preferences, palates, and growing up. And that's another thing, you have to meet people in the middle because that's how they've always eaten. And either they don't know any different, they don't want to try, or they haven't been suggested, hey, just have a bite, just get used to eating eating this particular food or this brown rice. Yeah, I remember when I was with one of my teams, and some of the staff was really big on everything organic and whole and clean and quinoa and brown. And we had this one player and he was not that way at all. And I remember seeing he put just like this little protein on his plate because he did not like any food on the buffet. And I was like, I had to go to the coach and I had to say, hey, we have to consider this because if you've been watching the way this player eats, he's now not eating anything. And now we don't even know what he's going up and getting fast food or at room service, if he is even, because I think at the time he didn't make a lot of money. I can't remember. So you just have to meet everybody in the middle. So then I say, all right, so if you're going to have the white rice, and we have lean, it's not like we have fried food on the menu. Everything, it's a lean, chicken, lean beef, lean fish. And then hopefully they'll find at least a vegetable that they'll like and they'll put on their plate. So then the fiber and the antioxidants, and I have a lot of cooking with herb, making sure bioactives, rosemary, right? The herbs that there's a term, the bioactives that are in our herbs and spices. So hopefully all of those things together are negating the effect of the white rice. And I don't
Mm,
know, I'm not convinced that it's the biggest problem because you look over in the Asian culture and they eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I mean, they're having issues now, but now it's because of the Kentucky Fried Chicken and the McDonald's and all the fast food restaurants that are showing up. So is it really the white rice? But what do they eat the white rice with? They eat it with vegetables and they eat it with majority of the time, lean, grilled proteins, lean fish. So I'm not convinced that it's bad for everybody.
yeah, that's good. So, what about at the beginning of like preseason? Well, of course, now we've got summer league, so this is going to kind of throw a wrench into the mix here. But players that are coming in, they're showing up for preseason camps. Uh, are you going to have a lot of, I won't say pushback, but they've been off on their own on off season, and some of them, like you say, have private chefs, but several don't, and they don't have the regimented kind of structured plan that you have implemented during the season. Is that a hard kind of transition for them, either when they're coming in or are they struggling when they leave?
I haven't, that's a really good question. I think it depends on the player. And it's one of those, it depends questions.
Yeah.
Here so far, I haven't seen much of a struggle because we gradually kind of start ramping up all the training. I think with there have been some players and some teams where yes, that has been a problem, but now uh it doesn't happen as much, or at least I haven't seen it. I can't remember. And I'm a big believer lately with how sports, there's really never an off season, and even still a lot of them, they are working out year round. I've kind of taken, I used to write all these elaborate meal plans and I used to try to do all this stuff. And I've kind of taken a back seat lately. And I know I probably could get murdered for this, but I feel like everybody just needs a break, and a mental break. Because especially for our guys, we ended mid-May, June, July, August. Yeah, that is a little bit in September. Some of them, will come in, right before training camp starts. I don't know, but a lot of them nowadays, they don't come in that out of shape. It's just a handful. I remember even being in baseball where spring training was the time to get in shape, but I worked at Athletes Performance Exos, and they were coming in, they'd take a month off and then they'd start coming in and they'd train with us October, November, December, January, until they had to report for spring training. So I would say nowadays 80 to 90% of them are already on point. They have chefs, they're training on a regular basis. So I guess I'm not really quite sure what I'm trying to say. I have relaxed a little bit because I think mentally they need a break.
Nice. Yeah, I think that goes to all levels of athletic conditioning. I mean, the physical, the nutritional, the mental. You can't keep on going at a certain
No.
pace and expect to maintain that for a long time.
And
So,
another point, Rocky, too, is that they're
yeah,
also been doing a lot of traveling, and they're doing, or friends and family are coming. So it's like, do all this plan. They might be on something for 2 weeks, but then they're off for 3 weeks because they have family coming into town and they're going out to eat all the time. Or now they just traveled for a month and they bounced around all over the place. So then it's just really trying to remind them to, try to be balanced, try to find an 80%, try not to eat fried chicken every single night, or, French fries, which would probably be my problem. So just trying to find a balance in there with all of the socializing that they're going to be doing that they missed out on in the last 6, 7 months.
gotcha. Well, how do you stay up to date with your knowledge, with the information that's coming out, and in regards to sports and performance nutrition? What are the resources that you go to?
Yeah, I'm involved in the CPSDA, the Collegiate Professional Sports Dietetics Association, and there are always research papers and all of that coming through. We have a great team that helps to organize and put it all in one spot. And then also the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has they just changed the name from SCAN to SHPN, Sports and Health Performance Nutrition. I don't know. So with those organizations and any of their newsletters and articles that they send out, then going to at least one of those conferences once a year, and then staying up to date with any of the supplement companies and their reps and the new products that are coming out, and having those conversations around where is this research coming from? What have you guys found? What can you share with me? And then of course, colleagues that are posting about something. Hey, this just came by. Here's some material. Anybody have any information on this? Those are my main ways right now.
And your colleagues there, I can't imagine they're just limited to NBA and WNBA. They must be across multi sports. Is that right?
Yeah, I still have friends and colleagues, right? Baseball and soccer and the NFL.
And is there one sport that's kind of leading the charge with performance nutrition?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I think they're all getting up there because even this year, even in 21, last year the NBA added 5 or 6 full-time dietitians. And
Hmm.
then I remember leading the charge, it was 2015 or 2016. The Players Association at MLB said that every team had to have a registered dietitian on staff in some capacity, whether full-time, part-time, consulting. So maybe the NBA or MLB, since that was 6, 7 years ago, and they put that in their player agreement.
Now, as this expands, I can see you having assistants or interns. Do you currently have any interns that work under you?
I do. I took my first one this January. When I was at Athletes Performance, I was the internship coordinator and I accepted a lot of interns year round. So yeah, I am working on just formalizing and refining the nutrition internship program here.
And is that sounds like it's quite the juggernaut, quite a handful.
Yeah, it can be, especially a lot of them, they can't give you a ton of hours and they just want to, and they can just come in for 4 weeks. And you're like, well, I'm gone for 2 of those 4 weeks. I don't know how much we're going to be able to get done. So this last intern that I had, I don't know how she was able to do it, but for dietetics, you have to do 9 months. I'm forgetting how many total hours of uh internships. So that would be clinical, food service, business entrepreneurship, and electric entrepreneurship, elective, and community. So a lot of community is like WIC or a government, women, infants, and children, or some type of government program. But I guess you could say, because sports nutrition doesn't really fall anywhere in any of those other ones like clinical or food service. So you could say that it's community. So she was able to give me 520 hours for community and then 160 hours for food service. So we had her for 6 months. So she spent time with myself and all the menus that I was developing and everything that I need to do in my job for food service. She got a lot of that. And then she had hands-on experience with Chef Brendan and the team in the kitchen.
So she slept in your closet, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes, for
Wondering what that pillow was doing there. Now it makes sense. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're coming up kind of near the end of the show here, and I could ask you, as you can probably imagine, dozens more questions. But out of all the experiences you have had, and they are remarkable, to be with the men's soccer team, traveling with the World Cup, to be there present for two World Series, and of course the Suns going as far as they did this previous season. I mean, you've had some really highlights in your career. Are there other sports, like, not that you want to leave where you are because it sounds like you got the dream job, but are there other avenues? Are there other things that pique your interest, or are you really just you're in hog heaven where you are right now?
Yes, that's a really good question. I am. I guess if I had to choose something else, where I am right now, I can't say that it would be that I'd want anything different, as we had talked about earlier. But I really am getting into the integrative and functional nutrition and medicine world. I really like that. Maybe so, I don't exactly know what that would be, but somewhere in there where maybe that's the main focus, and then sports is a side component of that. But those are my two kind of areas right now. I really like looking at getting to the root cause instead of treating the symptoms. Why, what's going
Hmm.
on? If you are, what is happening? Is it an environmental? Is it a food trigger? Is it something? Is it the stress? Like, because I just really like to help people. And so I hate when I'm working, I'm like, I can't do this nutrition plan for you because we're only going to get so far. And so then I feel like I'm not doing my job because I'm not helping you. So learning this new realm, which isn't really new, it's been around forever, but it's really exploding right now, integrative and functional. It's really great. And it's been learning so many new tools and techniques in order to get to that root cause or help people or get some ideas. I like to always be challenged.
I love that. I love that challenge too, because I just think about hospitals and their cafeteria. It's not like, hey, honey, what are you doing tonight? I've got an idea. Let's go to the hospital cafeteria. It's a five-star resort that has everything nutritionally we could need because they're there to help people repair and heal from disease and everything. Instead, it's like I would much rather go to your buffet. It sounds like this is actually, if we could take the Phoenix Suns kitchen and
Mhm.
put it into a hospital. Can you imagine how few sick people there would be? So
Yes.
I think you're on a good path right there. A
Yeah,
functional,
I appreciate
integrated medicine and all that. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, my last question for those in the audience going, I want to be her. I want to do what Danielle's doing. I want her job or some other team in the NBA or WNBA or wherever. How am I going to get there? What do you have for advice?
Yeah, I would say start by reaching out to a dietitian, in your state, and even look at the universities in the area as well. Cause a lot of colleges and universities now are hiring RDs to work with their athletic departments, their sports programs. So I would start there, or reach out, find out who the dietitian is. Cause that's what has happened with me. I've had a lot of local student RDs reach out, and sometimes it does work out and sometimes it doesn't, but that would be a really great place to start, or become a member of those two sports nutrition organizations, because they have a lot of great literature. They're always posting jobs and internships that are available, and it's just a great networking platform.
Okay, and then for you professionally, if people wanted to follow you, aside from the YouTube videos, they're called Courtside, is that right?
Yes, the court side.
Courtside. I'll try and put a link in the description below. But how can they follow your journey?
Sure. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm not very active. I'm so bad at my social media. So, and I'm on LinkedIn. So on Instagram, it's and I think my Twitter handle is the exact same thing or very similar, but at Danielle RDN. That's my Insta handle. And every now and then I get something on there, but I do need to be better about
No,
using
you don't. There's nothing wrong with not being there. You got enough on your plate. Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been great, and I know that you were a key component of getting those Suns to go as far as they did last season, and keep them fueled up for next year when they go against the Celtics in the finals. So that's going to be awesome. We'll come back on the show just before they kick off the game one in June, and we'll go a little head to head. How does that sound?
I love it. That sounds great. And I want to say thank you so much for reaching out. I really do appreciate this, being able to kind of share what I do and talk about all the different aspects of it. I do appreciate you reaching out to me. Thank you.
Truly, truly my pleasure. And that's a wrap for another episode of the Zealous Podcast. I know what you're thinking. Could we just go a little bit longer, like another half hour, an hour? Because she had so much to give. So I just want to thank Danielle for coming on. Man, that was good. Definitely going to have her back on where we can talk about sports nutrition from all aspects, and not just the NBA, but for any athlete in your life. In fact, if you want to send in some questions, make some comments, I'd love to hear them. In the meantime, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Rocky_Snyder, and we'll see you next week.